everyone. I am so thrilled to be here. So I'm Priya Sam, and I am really excited to introduce you all to Fennella Bruce. She is the winner of this year's Visionary Award, and she is an icon on the media scene here in Canada. She was on the editorial team that launched CP24, Toronto's 24-hour news channel, and the team that launched CTV's Your Morning, which is CTV's national morning show. She is here today because of what she's doing now. As you heard, she's the founder of FKB Media Solutions and FKB Productions. Her innovative media companies offer services from consulting with celebrities on their media presence and personal brands, to publicity for signature events, to media training, and most recently, the FKB Media announced a new speakers bureau. And I have to say, that is a very condensed version of this woman's accomplishment. So let's give her a warm welcome. Oh, I don't think it. I don't think Fenella's mic's on. Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. Okay, so I think for everyone to really fully appreciate the breadth and experience of your career, we need to go back in time a little bit. So what inspired you to study journalism in the first place?
We're really going back in time.
We're really going back.
I would have to say, I didn't even know what journalism was when I decided I wanted to do it. Like probably most people in this room, I was fascinated with television and how these small people got in this box and how this whole magic happened. And so I was intrigued by that, and I actually, when I finished high school, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Only because I got some law bursary because I had the highest mark, not because I was like into law, although I love Law and Order, suds. And so, and when I decided to go to, I actually applied to journalism school, Carleton, I got into it, but I ended up going to the University of Toronto, Scarborough campus, because, a couple of reasons, but mainly because it was close to home and I didn't want to move away. And so I went there, and I knew I had a passion. I had always had a passion for writing. And I went there as an English major. And while I was there, I wrote for The Underground, which was our school newspaper. I wrote for the Varsity Downtown. We had a radio station. I had a radio show. I was the program manager. And the only thing missing, because there was no television aspect there, was TV. But I think by then I was like, okay, this media, this is what I wanted to do. And so when I finished my degree at U of T, I looked around for a graduate program, and I applied to Ryerson, which is now TMU, and I got into that program. And there, I just devoured everything TV, and finished. When I was there, like most people, I thought I was going to be a reporter. But I still had a knack for writing, and my first real job was as a writer on breakfast television. And from there is where my journalism career began, I would say. I did do some work for community papers before that, but I would say there is where I became a writer, and then a senior writer for City TV, for City News, and a producer. And I was a producer for, oh boy, now people don't know my age. I was a producer for about 20 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and for anyone who's worked behind the scenes in any event or media or TV show, you know it is one of the most stressful jobs being a producer. So I feel that. You know, you talked about your first job at breakfast television, and I think it's no secret that the media world has been a very challenging place for people of color. It continues to be. There's still a lack of diversity when it comes to management. So what was it like for you in the early days of your career?
Well, when I started writing at breakfast television, I was 23 years old. And I grew up in Scarborough, so you know, I was a group of people who looked like me in my school and in my neighborhood. And so when I was now going downtown and working at City, and I was working with 3 other writers, all men, all white men, and a producer, a white man, and it was 2 producers that rotated every other month. So altogether, just working with white men, and I was writing for Kevin Frankish. And so yeah, it was a very intimidating situation for me, walking into that newsroom, a major market newsroom that all of our journalism teachers said, you'll never start in the major market, go outside and then come back in. I was able to do that, which is another story, but had to do with, they were talking earlier about networking and volunteerism. That's how I ended up working there. And I was scared bleepless, like, I'm not gonna lie. And the thing was that I was offered the position. I was working at a community paper called Pride at the time as an editor. And so I was offered the position on breakfast television, and it was a part-time position. So it started at 4 a.m. And again, I lived in Scarborough. It was when I had to go out and get a car. And I started in October, like right around now. So I was getting into the winter months. And yeah, so I had to get up at 3 a.m., 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and go to work for 4 a.m. and my shift finished at 9. So essentially for like a 5-hour shift, right? And I was like, well, this is my foot in the door, but this is, man, hard. And then I would finish, and I would drive up to Scarborough and do my other job working at the newspaper. And then I would go home and I would sleep and do it all again. But it only lasted until February because they were so impressed with my writing that I was offered a full-time position. And then I was moved to the 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock news. But that position, coming back to what was happening at the time, there was another writer that was a part-time writer as well. He was a middle-aged white man. And we were walking out to the parking lot, and the position had been posted. And he said to me, are you going to apply for the position? And so my boss at the time had encouraged me to apply. Because I had only been there for months, so I wasn't even really thinking that I had a chance. So I said to him, yeah, I think I'm going to apply for it, right? And then he said to me, because he had been there for a few years, and he obviously wanted a position, and he said, well, you'll probably get it because you check 2 boxes that they need. And I said, I guess it has nothing to do with my writing skills, right? But okay. And so I did end up getting the job. And it was very interesting to me because many, many years later, I was the producer at Canada AM. And, it was a time when there was a lot of layoffs happening, and I heard he had been laid off. And we needed a writer. And so I called him and I said, do you want to come in for an interview? And he came in and he got the position. And I thought it was an interesting term because it's like, obviously, I got the job because I was good at the job. And obviously, I can rise above your racism and your stereotypical thoughts about me to actually give you an opportunity when I know you needed it.
Wow. Yes, yes. Wow. Yeah, what a full circle moment and just a powerful display of, like you said, rising above that experience and showing him kindness in that moment.
And I think the thing is that I think if we want to have any sort of change in this world, we can't all be like that, right? It's never going to change if everybody continues that kind of thinking and not look at people who are best for the job, right? And, and also just be a good human being. Yeah. We're all trying to survive. We all have families. We all are trying to live, right? And I know he had, 2 kids. And I also knew the experience of being laid off and not having a job and how scary that is, right? So if I could help, and we needed a writer at the end of the day as well. So if I could help, then I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the layoffs and other challenges that you've experienced along the way. Where did you turn, or where did you find strength and support during some of the more challenging times?
God. I'm a woman of faith, so that was definitely a source to me. As much as there are great moments and times like this, there were really dark times for me, right? One And you know, I was I am still a single mother, and I had 2 children to care for. And so I know the second time I was laid off, I had actually just, like literally a week before that, gone through a breakup. So I was already in a really fragile place. And then I was laid off, and I was just like, what more, right? What more? But what I realized that in life, every time that there is something that's terrible that happens, and maybe at the time you're like, really, like seriously, or is there a God, or is there whatever it is that you believe in, down the road, you look back and understand why that happened, right? And for me, that second time that I got laid off, and that year, and literally, I mean, it sounds terrible, but both times that I was laid off, I was off work for like 2 weeks, and then I was hired again, right? So it was really not a long layoff, but the second time, I took that time to reflect and figure out if this is where I really wanted to be, and I saw the changes that were happening in the media industry, and also just my kids were older, and also just to think about what I wanted to do, what I really wanted to do in life, right? And so I got a job coach and kind of really assessed myself. And you know, a year later, I quit and launched my business. So now, 6 years later, I realized that layoff was the best thing that happened to me. This is the best part of my life.
Yeah, it really like kind of gave you that final push into entrepreneurship. And I know entrepreneurship is something that you kind of came back to at times during your career, and you dabbled here and there. So, but do you remember the first time that you were kind of bit by that entrepreneurial bug?
I don't know if I was bit, more like forced, because I finished school, and you know, again, everybody thinks they're going to be a reporter, and so I sent out. Again, I'm going to be dating myself. I sent out these VCR tapes to all these different stations, and I got all these rejection letters, and so I started thinking, okay, what other skills do I have? And I started doing some PR for community organizations, like organizations with my community. The Sickle Cell organization was one of them, and Tropicana. And so I started doing those things because a couple reasons. Because they were nonprofit organizations, they'll take the help, and you know, either for free or very low cost. I was living at home, so I didn't have like a lot of expenses, but it was also a good way to learn. So I liked it, and I did. You know, I can't even remember the name of my company. I set up something, and I, you know, put out my shingle, and was doing those sort of things as I was still trying to get into the media industry. Was still volunteering at City. Was still. I did like an EA stint at CTV, but I would say that would be my first sort of foray into it, and it was just doing that, and also writing. So I would freelance write. I wrote about music, so I did stuff for Word Magazine and for SoCan and some other publications. So I was always doing something, and maybe at the time I didn't even realize I was an entrepreneur. I was just like trying to just, you know, figure out where I was going to be.
Wow, okay, and then you mentioned that you actually launched your company FKB Media in 2018, right? So it's been 6 years. So I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the room, and we all know that things change and shift in entrepreneurship, but what was your original vision for FKB Media? Do you remember?
My original vision was to pay my bills.
Fair. Love the honesty. Yeah.
My vision, you know, I knew I wanted to do. Okay, so here was a couple of things I was wrestling with. And I think for me, a lot of times in life, it's about labels, and I don't really like them. And so I didn't want to be called a publicist. I had a friend of mine who kept saying, but what you're doing, everything that a publicist does, you're a publicist. And I was like, I like media consultant. I think that sounds better. And it kind of covers things, but it doesn't really cover things. It doesn't really say exactly, but I can make it fit wherever. So I would say, you know, I'm a media consultant. And I knew that I had all of these different skills, and I knew people were I took also from what people were asking me for. So I knew that people needed, there was a set of professionals that wanted media training, wanted to know how to do an interview well, how to get an interview, right? So I was like, okay, I can kind of do something in that area. And my business is, and I was telling you earlier, like around now is kind of where I sort of reset for the next year. And so I tried out in the first year a whole bunch of different things that I was offering, all these different services. It was bananas. And I realized I was stretching myself too thin because I was just doing, like basically if you asked me to do something, I could do it. So I would do it. And I would just, sit there and magically come up with a price for whatever it is, what bill I needed to pay. So it wasn't a good business strategy, right, to start with. And I was burning myself out. I was literally burnt out because I was doing everything. And basically, if someone called me and asked me if I could do it, I said, yeah, I could do it, no problem, whatever. And so when I started looking now, okay, and what I enjoy doing, we talk about that. I also wanted to look at what I enjoy doing because the point of working for yourself is being able to say, I love what I do and have passion for it and decide the things that you want to do. So I was like, you know what, I need to stop being like a yes woman and start being like, okay, this is what I do. This is out of my purview. Maybe you should talk to someone else, rah, 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 and not be afraid to turn work down because that's another thing as an entrepreneur, you're always afraid, well, if I turn this down, this is, money that I'm, losing out on or I'm leaving on the table. So it took me, I would say, maybe a good 2-3 years to really narrow down my business focus and what it was I specifically want to do, what I was comfortable saying I'm going to do, I can do, and I can charge this for it because this is what I'm about, and I can move forward. And that also came, a process that helped me with that was like my website and really being specific on there about what we offer and what we do. And so, and taking off the things, and also taking out the things that weren't working. Right, because not everything worked, and so that's how I sort of narrowed down what it is I wanted to do.
And what were some of the things that you found, like in those 2 years, that you really enjoyed and wanted to focus on?
I have a portal. It's called Find an Expert, and I help professionals position themselves as media experts, the people that they call on when there's a topic or a crisis or an issue or whatever, and I really got a warm, fuzzy feeling inside when I see somebody that I've helped who's never had any, media experience, whatever. I've trained them, I've helped them, and I turn on the TV or I open the paper or I turn on the radio and they're there. And so, and they're successful. And then they call me and they're so happy. And I feel that energy and I take that energy and it feeds me. And so, and it motivates me. And so I think that's what I like the best, where I'm helping people get their stories out, get their stories told, get their message out, raise money. I've helped a bunch of different people with initiatives and organizations or people in crisis bring awareness to what they're doing. And then that just comes back to what I was doing in my other career, right? So it's like I'm a storyteller at heart, and I think everybody has a story, and everybody's story deserves to be heard in whatever way you want to tell it. And so that is what gives me joy.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that dovetails really nicely into this next piece here, because you mentioned, these are kind of the moments, and I think we could all just see in your face, you really lit up when you started talking about helping other people to share their stories and get that publicity. But what else would you say really sets FKB Media and FKB Productions kind of apart from other similar companies?
I think it is the FKB.
Yes.
I had one of my experts, Joanne, I was speaking with her yesterday, and she's decided to join my Speakers Bureau. And one of the things that she said to me that really touched me was that, and she had no media, we met in the pandemic. And it was so weird because she was actually on breakfast television a couple weeks ago, and that was the first time I met her in person. And because I was down there with another client, it was totally unrelated, and she's like, so it was kind of cool in that way, and that's sort of where we're going with, everything being virtual now. But she said to me, I saw that you were doing a Speakers Bureau, and I knew that I wanted to be part of it because I trust you. I love working with you. I don't feel like you'll leave me hanging. You're always very attentive to me. You're always a calming voice, guiding me, giving me feedback, even when it's, it's not negative, but it's constructive. And I just feel at ease. Like I don't have to worry that you're trying to rip me off, or you don't know what you're doing, because I see the results of what you're doing. And so I think that is probably the main difference that I get from other people into why they work with me or want to work with me, is that I am my company, right? My daughter told me the other day, you're the brand. And she told me this when I was, because I am a behind the scenes person, being a producer. And when I started my company, and I had absolutely no social media presence, and I was like, I'm not interested in being on social media. And she's like, you're the brand. You need to be, get over it. Get out there. And so I said, okay. And one of the things that I always tell, one of my favorite things is that change is always good. Whenever you're uncomfortable or you're in discomfort, it's a good thing. And I was very uncomfortable, and I'm still not very comfortable with being on social media, but I know it's part of building my business. I'm uncomfortable being up here right now, but I know that Tanya said I have to be up here to get my award. No, she didn't say that. But it's good because I'm growing. So it's, I'm like, okay, I know I can do this. I'm in good hands with Priya. Let's do this.
Yes, and I think it's been so great to hear your story, but it's interesting as you're helping other people tell their stories, and their stories are kind of merging. Like we've heard some of their stories in your own story now, so I think it's really cool to actually hear that all come together, and you are clearly such a natural storyteller. So plus also I think the other thing just from reading your website is like you have this rare combination of the experience in TV behind the scenes and also the publicity experience.
Yeah, definitely. When I first started, and I was talking with a former colleague of mine who's in radio, and she was congratulating me on launching a business, and I said to her, like I had said to the other firm, like, there's other publicity companies, and I don't know if this is going to work. And she's like, you have the secret sauce. Yeah. You've been in the newsroom. You know what they look for. You know what the pitches are about. That's what they don't have. Use that to your advantage. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of like McDonald's with the secret sauce. I can do this. And, one of the things, I think you asked me before about, what helped me or what supported me with my business. And one of the things I would say was that I can't even count. I think I had probably about at least 100 cheerleaders, from my former colleagues to my family to my friends to my network. Like everybody throughout my whole journey has been so positive and encouraging and sending business my way or giving me feedback or whatever it may be. And that definitely has been the foundation of my business. It was all of that.
Having that network and that kind of almost like your own personal board of directors that's supporting you along the way, it makes all the difference. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. You're 6 years in now to your business. So what would you say has been your biggest learning in business?
That I can't do everything. I am being told I'm a bit of a control person. And so I had to learn to let go. I started my business thinking it was going to be a one-weapon operation. I have 2 employees now, but I've had employees over that 6 years. And so the first time, the first person that I hired, and it was when my business was really taking off, and I had a friend, and he was like, why don't you just hire someone to do all of the things that you shouldn't even be doing as an entrepreneur, do administrative stuff, whatever. And I was like, hire someone. That wasn't the plan. It was going to be just me, and I don't know if I can trust somebody to do something. And so that has been a process, definitely, of learning that I can't do everything. I shouldn't try to do everything, and it's not a good idea to try and do everything. And so learning to delegate, learning to trust, learning to give feedback and be a boss has been a process, and orchestrating all of that. And so I would say that has been the biggest sort of learning thing for me, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson for all of the entrepreneurs in the room, myself included. I know that is one of the hardest things, is just letting go and learning to trust someone else. But yeah, it gives you, I'm sure, like, do you find now it's giving you some of that space to focus on the creative part of your business and the parts you really enjoy?
Yeah, definitely. There's some things, and then there's sometimes it's so funny where it's like, I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do this. Oh yeah, I have an employee to do it. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I have to catch myself sometimes because I still fall into like wanting to do everything. And I think the other thing that I would add that was a lesson or something I didn't realize when I got into entrepreneurship was that I was going to have to wear many, many hats. And so I had to learn accounting and bookkeeping. I had to learn about taxes. I had to learn about, and I had employees, payroll. I had to learn about marketing and all of these different things that you have to do because you don't have at that point when you start a staff to do those things. So that was interesting, and I feel like in these 6 years I've gotten I did my own self MBA. Yeah. Like I really do.
Totally. So, What are you most excited about when you think about the future of FKB Media and FKB Productions?
Well, with the productions part, I actually just started out 2 years ago, and registered my production company, and I'm excited because I'm working on a documentary. It started off actually as a documentary about Maestro Fresh Wes. I did a whole pitch and had a development deal for that, and we've decided most recently to expand it into a larger docuseries project that you'll hear more about. But so I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited about the Speakers Bureau that I launched as well, because this is a new area, an old idea. I had this idea like 25 years ago, but it took that long to germinate. And so I'm excited about the Speakers Bureau and building that. And I was thinking about it this morning because I don't know that when I started that I had this big grand vision for my company, but I do think that at the end of the day, when I decide to walk away, what I'd like to walk away from is like a full service production house with PR and a speakers bureau and a production company and just like a thriving media company that is just doing great work out there. That's what I think in the end.
And that is why you are receiving this Visionary Award today. We love this. Fennella, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I feel like I could sit here and talk to you all day, but we have a schedule to keep. So I would now like to invite Vanessa Case, Vice President of Content at Paramount Plus and Pluto TV Canada, to present this year's Visionary Award.
You as the award is coming up here now. Thank you. Honestly, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Honestly, on behalf of Paramount, we're happy to be part of the Reelworld Festival and Summit. This is a really important festival for us. It's something that we bring a little bit of contribution to so that we can work with all of you, be in this room, and then hear amazing sessions like this, and just being able to open up and to everybody here. So we're so thankful, and thank you for letting Paramount present this to you, and congratulations. I know I could have just put it here. I'll keep the box. Yeah, hold it up. Look at that. Beautiful.